Hello, I am Matt from Milwaukee Record.
Is that a question?
It is a question.
I am Kristin from Ascos, Wisconsin.
And here we are. Kristin, I feel like we've done, is this our 5th episode, I would say? And it's nice to finally meet you.
I know.
Here we are,
person.
In a room together. How about that?
It's like I feel like it's like when you meet your pen pals.
That's right.
Like this last year, I just felt like I've made a ton of pen pals that live in the same state, but have yet to spin that physical barrier that I'm slowly starting to get to meet people in person.
We were talking about that just before we started. You were meeting some of your Twitter pals, which I've had that same thing too, where it's like, oh, we can now meet in person. It's very strange.
Yeah, and people who it's like, I've been watching your videos or doing this or that, and now it's like you're here. I think the most common comment I've gotten back so far is that I'm taller than people expected.
Yes, I was going to say that, but then I figured you get that all the time. So, but oops, I just said it anyway. So, but yes, you are taller than I expected. So, welcome. Yes, this is great to do this finally in person. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here in person. I'm glad you are a smart person because I am not. I'm just a dope. And I really need a smart person to explain things to me. Very important things that for whatever reason, when I see headlines about them, my eyes glaze over, and I don't know why, and they shouldn't, and I feel terrible. And there's a lot of those subjects. The one we'll be talking about today is the Medicaid, BadgerCare, something or other happening in Wisconsin that we are losing out on a bunch of money.
Yes.
Please explain to me what is happening.
All right. Well, there's people who are much smarter about this than even me, but what I have gathered, so to take it all the way back, after the Affordable Health Care Supreme Court decision in 2012, and that there was going to be this expansion, basically before Medicaid was a 50-50 split between states and the federal government. So as an incentive to get more states to cover more people, especially the lower income people, from 2013 to 2016, the federal government was paying for all of Medicaid. Since then, it's been reduced to a 90-10 split, which supposedly that is what is going to stay at. Actually, it wasn't until 2020 that it turned to 90-10. So basically, this is a federal government program if you expand it. But on top of that, they've also been giving federal money to states that expand it. So up until this year, Wisconsin has already lost out on $2.8 billion. Billion. That we just haven't taken because we have not expanded Medicaid, which is in Wisconsin, we call it BadgerCare.
Okay.
And largely, I think it was, supposed to be a FU to the entire idea of Obamacare / which is the same thing as affordable health care plan. But then it's now, I don't know if the talking points around it are, it's federal money, so there's strings attached. I don't fully understand, besides political motives, why we're not doing this. But now it happened again. So in Evers' proposed budget that came out in February.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Liberal wish list, everything that he had on there. One of those things was expanding Medicaid, BadgerCare. That was obviously one of the things that, one of the 380 things that the Joint Finance Committee cut from Evers' proposed budget into what they want to have in the budget this year. So then last week, Evers called a special session, which he has done multiple times, and multiple times our legislature has taken about 10 seconds to gavel in and gavel out, and nothing happens. And everyone was expecting this to happen. But the way that Evers now sweetened, it was a political move, but it would not that necessarily was a bad faith political move, but he basically said, if we get these, because right now with the, stick with me.
Please.
With the Recovery Act, there's the $600 million that was already the annual incentive. Now with the Recovery Act, there's an additional $1 billion. Billion.
Again.
So we're at $1.6 billion from the federal government given to Wisconsin if we expand BadgerCare. And by expanding, it means hiring the income level of eligible people. And so right now, if you're a single person, you need to make less than $13,000 a year to be eligible for BadgerCare. This would raise it to $17,780. Yeah,
that sounds right. Yeah, I saw 17 floating around.
So still not a lot of money.
No.
Not a lot of money. And the math says it's somewhere between like 90 and 95,000 more Wisconsinites would be covered.
Okay.
Also, not a huge number.
No.
It's like 10,000 more than fits in Lambeau Field. Not a big number.
It's a good way to think about it.
Right? Like
anything.
I always feel like big numbers. It's like, all right, what is the stadium size that like fits into, or like the concert venue? So you can get an idea if I've ever been around that many people. Special session. Everyone on the right says this is a political move. We're going to not consider this at all. Yesterday was that special session, and indeed they took about 10 seconds to gavel in, gavel out, and gave up they gave up the $1.6 billion, which Evers had put out a list of 50 plus projects that the money could go to, and including a bunch of projects in these Republicans' districts. Sure. So it was things like, well, now it doesn't matter, but it was for like where my parents live, Wisconsin Rapids, was giving a $50 million loan to the cooperative that was trying to buy the now closed paper mill. But the paper mill got hit by lightning last night, so that's a whole other story.
Wow.
Yeah. But it was also like I think it was like a community center or a mental health center in like Racine. Like it was all these like specific projects that would help communities that they just said no. So here we are.
So here's my dumb question, and thank you very much, by the way. Yes.
This is me off script. It's kind of meanders.
It's thank you again. I appreciate it being explained to me as just some dope. What is the reason? You mentioned like political points. You mentioned there's always, and I do hear this as well, with any kind of federal money, and it reminds me of the streetcar big brouhaha we had here in Milwaukee a few years back when that was coming in. It was like, well, it's federally funded. And then, of course, there were people saying, well, there are strings attached to that. What are those strings? Where are those strings that I keep hearing about?
I don't know. I actually don't know. And I don't know. So there's a couple ways that I've heard as far as what the arguments are. One is there is no gap coverage or coverage gap. So basically saying because of the way that like the marketplace is set up now, that there is no gap of people who can't afford or don't make so little that they are eligible for BadgerCare, right, and can't get on the marketplace. But the thing is, like, I don't know. I mean, would you say you're self-employed? Yeah, you're self-employed. You own Milwaukee Records.
This is true, yes.
Yeah, so you guys have to pay for your own healthcare.
Yes.
I have been self-employed for multiple years now, and I went from having a very cushy health insurance program when I worked in tech at a Silicon Valley company to having to get insurance on the marketplace. And like most premiums as a healthy, non-sick 30-something is like $300 a month to have a $5,000 deductible. And so it's literally like catastrophic insurance, right? Like it's like you get it so that in case you get hit by a car or you randomly get cancer, that like you're not totally screwed. But it's not actual health insurance, right? And so, and it's also not, I don't know how much the premiums change when you're only making $17,000 a year, but like, it's still a couple hundred, the premiums are still a couple hundred. So it's like, there is a coverage gap because what's on the marketplace is not affordable for people who are making not a lot of money. And so that argument to me is not a good one. The other one is we don't want to expand welfare, which is like a pretty constant thing as far as people equating that people who are on BadgerCare are like milking the system. But like, good reminder that like my uncle who has Down syndrome on BadgerCare, like people who are on disability, like it is there for people who are vulnerable. So not expanding, we don't want to expand welfare. And then I think it's something about like the reimbursement rates for people on BadgerCare versus like when you get private insurance. So like we're talking about like the practitioners is much lower.
Okay.
Which that is real, but it's also like I said, only 95,000 people. And that's assuming all of them get sick every year and are like milking their health insurance. which I don't think is true.
So what's the next step? Is this just dead? Is this done? Is this issue over for now? Or
I think so.
Is there anything that happens next?
I actually don't. I don't know. It feels kind of like it is, as far as unless there's more money next year. Because the thing that this is what we talked about in the last episode. All of this just feels like we just have to get new district maps, and we have to get through the 2022 election, and it just feels like grin and bearing this constant revolving door of issues that are popular that don't happen, because it's 70% of Wisconsinites wanted this,
right? And it feels like there is this news cycle that every week there's something else that is just dead in the water that we all have to get worked up about, even though we know it's dead in the water, and then it comes and goes, and then we move on to the next thing. And you're right, it seems like it boils down to, check our last episode, by the way, where you very helpfully explained to me, again, a dope, gerrymandering.
Fair
Thank you.
maps.
I couldn't even think of the name, I'm so dumb, but thank you, yes. So, there you go. Moving on.
Move more fun stuff.
Moving on to more fun stuff, let's talk about canceled fireworks. There is nothing more fun than canceling stuff in 2021. Earlier this week, Milwaukee County Parks announced that indeed the Milwaukee Lakefront's big July 3rd fireworks extravaganza is canceled this year for 2021, and perhaps not for the reasons that a lot of people think. This was a great example of finding out if people read the articles that they're commenting on Facebook. And guess what? They don't. And I almost consciously did it. I read the whole thing and I was like, all right, what should my headline be? And I just put they're off for 2021. They'll be back next year. And of course, everyone jumps in right away and mask, it's over, pandemic's over. No, it's not because of the pandemic entirely. But according to the parks, Milwaukee County Parks, this is what they had to say. They said, our team at Milwaukee County Parks is working tirelessly to ensure that people can safely enjoy parks, trails, and amenities as much as possible this summer, but we are stretched thin. Canceling this event was a difficult decision that we've been discussing for months with everyone involved, and we also looked at the possibility of postponing the event till the fall, but it comes down to simply lacking the resources and staffing needed to prepare and clean up from such a large-scale event. The press release goes on, they just lay it out here. It's no secret that Milwaukee County has been facing financial, staffing, and service level reductions for years. Despite the lessening of COVID-19 restrictions, the department continues to struggle to recruit and hire seasonal staff, which is preventing a return to pre-pandemic park service levels. Not that pre-pandemic park service levels were all that great. This is something, obviously, the county has been struggling with for a long, long time. I feel like we've talked about this a little bit on a past episode.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Is there an update on the privatization of the abandoned upper level at Bradford Beach?
A little bit. Apparently, there was some surprise repairs needed to that beach house because there was some danger of it falling apart or something.
Okay.
And the company that was kind of running the thing upstairs were trying to fix it themselves, and they were using the wrong materials. And it's a big mess. I don't know. Which it kind of highlights the need. It highlights the fact that the county just doesn't have enough money to do this stuff themselves. Yeah. And even though they do have this private contractor there, kind of working out of there, they're trying their best and they're kind of screwing up. It's a big mess. So here we are. And of course, the fireworks were canceled last year for the lakefront. I want to say they were almost canceled the year before that, or this has been an issue before. The county saying we don't have enough money, and I think one year the Brewers stepped in at the last second and kind of bailed them out and gave them a bunch of money. This press release, literally buried in the last line, does mention that the fireworks will be back for 2022, sponsored by, guess who? American Family Insurance.
Yes. Give me enough time to guess.
Sorry.
Wow, they're just rolling in money. Just sponsoring everything.
Isn't that shocking? Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
Insurance companies, what?
It is.
Just rolling in money?
Straight up Milwaukee, brought to you by American Family Insurance.
So we'll be back. Yeah, that is, I guess it's to a certain extent, everyone's having a hard time hiring right now. And sounds like the county parks are no different.
And we talked about this again previously, back in February, I think. County Executive David Crowley, he gave a speech, kind of a state of the county speech, and it was pretty grim in a lot of places. And I know I read this before, but I'll read it again because I think it's super important. He said, Milwaukee County has undertaken significant efforts to improve the efficiency of our operations and pursued ambitious cost-saving efforts that generated savings of nearly $289 million over the last 10 years. Despite these efforts, the growing cost of state mandates will continue to drive up our costs by another $320 million by 2038. Continued expenditure reductions are not sustainable. We can't cut our way out of this. In just 6 years, Milwaukee County will be forced to utilize all local tax dollars for state mandates, eliminating local funding for senior services, public safety, emergency services, disability services, bus routes and roads, along with cultural amenities, including parks. 6 years. I know, like I said, we talked about this before, but I think that's it's so crazy that he put a 6-year mark on it. That's not that far away.
It's, oh God, it's, because I don't think the city, I mean, that's on the county level, but I don't think the city level with pensions and stuff that are coming up is doing much better either.
Oh boy, yeah, that's a whole other can.
And it's just fascinating to me that, like, people don't understand that a lot of this all comes back to, I feel like, making Milwaukee and making Wisconsin like a desirable place to live. And so it's like having, if we want more jobs or we want maybe more jobs filled, like we need more people. And like, and thus we need policies and that like for better schools or like actually spending money on roads and like all the things that like make it a desirable place to live. And so it's like, I don't know if like the squeezing of Milwaukee is to make Milwaukee a less desirable place to live. But I also think that anyone who's making decisions on the scale of all of Wisconsin, it's like, we got a major problem of people not staying and like brain drain and like policies that they keep passing
or not passing
are not changing that. And I know that's not totally, I mean, that's kind of in line with that as far as just like, I think there's just a disconnect from people understanding like what government pays for.
Mm-hmm.
And that like, taxes actually get used for things that you use, like, and enjoy, like fireworks.
Yep. And parks. And this all boils down to, we've talked about this before, the need for Milwaukee to kind of institute its own local sales tax, which we are not allowed to do here. Yeah. And that comes down to, again, the state just saying, certain people in the state just saying nope, and that's part of the liberal wish list and ain't happening. And then that boils down to gerrymandering. So
yes,
we should just talk about that
we
every
week.
Really.
Exclusively talk about gerrymandering, and so until everyone every time anyone leaves a comment on one of my videos of like I hate it here, and it's like, well, you should care about gerrymandering.
Check out this video. Yes.
It's like everyone who ever is like, Wisconsin's the south of the north or Mississippi or whatever the clever thing they want to call us is. It's like, well, you should care about gerrymandering because actually we're a very purple state.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of that, finally, I kind of want to talk about kind of two ends of the spectrum. I'm talking about masks. Of course, by the time this comes out on a Friday, this video, and then after the weekend. And after the holiday, it's June 1st, and Milwaukee's mask mandate, an entire COVID public health order, expires. It's all over June 1st. So masks, indoors and out, you're done. And you've seen tons of businesses and the brewers and everyone saying, okay, June 1st, you don't have to wear a mask if you're vaccinated. And I think Potawatomi today announced that they're kind of following step and saying, if you're vaccinated, June 1st, don't have to wear masks, all that stuff. And it's been interesting seeing the reaction to that. And not to play both sides are equally crazy, but I did find the...
But,
yeah, right. It's a big but. I did find two examples of what I thought were kind of extreme reactions to this. On one end, on June 1st at an Irish bar here in Milwaukee, we have a Burn the Masks party. This is organized by... just some doozy people. Former Alderman Bob Donovan. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I heard his name dropped this morning. I had not known who he was. But isn't he also going to that Mike Lindell thing? That's, did you see that sweet poster?
That is another.
I feel like this is, in editing, we'll need to put the poster up.
Oh, we'll put it right now.
Because the graphic design on this guy is special.
It is, yes, it is incredible. Bob Donovan, a former Milwaukee Alderman, who we could do a whole show about Bob. I do kind of miss seeing him just smoking outside City Hall. Anytime I'd pass City Hall, he'd be just
Cigarette or cigar?
Just a cigarette.
Okay.
Just working on a cig. And thankfully, I think he retired just as the pandemic began. I think, this was just a glimpse of what the past year would have been like if he still would have had a job. He retired. Anyway, he's organizing this Burn the Masks party, June 1st. If you show up, you can get a free Freedom beer, courtesy of former Alderman Donovan. He has an all-star lineup of guests, including 3 people I've never heard of, and another former Milwaukee person, former Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clark.
Ooh, that guy.
That guy, yes. Boy, and there's another guy. Can you imagine the past year if that guy would have still had a job in Milwaukee? I think I would have lost my mind by now. So they're showing up.
What is his job now?
Nothing. I don't know. I don't even know if he has a Twitter account anymore. I think, is he on Parler? I don't know. I don't know what he does. Maybe he's a consultant. I always
wonder where these, because it's like Scott Walker's like the president of YAF.
They come up with some, random consulting thing, or I don't know. Yeah, they're essentially unemployed. And that's great. But they're showing up at this Irish bar on the 1st to burn some masks, which I just have to say, I don't know, have a little class. I mean, come on. Even if, people died, do we have to just be dicks at the very end of this thing? Anyway, that's happening June 1st. Also, on kind of the other end, when it was announced that Milwaukee will be ending the mask mandate June 1st, there were a few local aldermen and alderwomen who were suddenly like, whoa, wait a minute. Are we ready to do this? We need to have a public hearing. They did that earlier today.
I did not watch, but I saw you were watching.
I was
live.
I was watching live until I couldn't watch anymore because it turned out it was really interesting. It was a group of people who for the past year plus have been patting themselves on the back, as they should, for following the science without question. We are following the science. We're listening to the CDC. We're listening to the Milwaukee Health Department. And now that the CDC and the Milwaukee Health Department are saying, hey, you don't have to wear masks, suddenly they have questions. Suddenly they're questioning this, which I thought is just kind of crazy. But it turned out really, I think, what this whole meeting was about was that the Common Council was not involved in the decision to end this. And they were a bit peeved by that, which made me feel that nature truly is healing, because they're always mad about that. It's always this, push and pull between them and the mayor's office and City Hall. And so, I don't know. There's that. So, I'm kind of ready. I'm vaccinated. I'm happy to go anywhere that doesn't have a mask mandate. Businesses certainly can. They can still continue to do that if they want. I'm sure a lot of the places that I go to will continue to do it for a little while. That's fine with me. I'm happy to take my mask along and put it on if they want me to, and not be a jerk about it.
Yeah, that's what I feel like I've been at. When I think it was actually the CDC made that announcement. I think the last time you and I recorded, we did an episode, and I feel like in talking to people, it's like, how do you balance this now? And I feel like the best answer I've gotten is still wearing the mask on your wrist to signify I have the mask. Oh. If you need me to wear the mask, I can pop it on. So that should signify to you that I am not wearing the mask because I am vaccinated. Oh, I never. Oh. So that's the best middle ground I've heard so far as how do you indicate I'm not just. So this is actually a good story. So we were my boyfriend and I were up in where were we? It was past Whitefish Bay. It was a pick and save past Whitefish Bay. I don't know what area where we were actually. It's off of Good Hope. Okay. So the sign on the pick and save has a mask on it, but you have to read it to say that the text now says, if you are vaccinated, you no longer have to wear a mask. Mm-hmm. So boyfriend read it. He's like, because he had forgotten his mask. So he's like, I didn't have to wear it. Or he didn't wear it. But then we got into the store and everyone was still wearing masks. And so he and I were looking at each other being like, is this many people not vaccinated? Or did they just not read the sign, assuming that the sign still said, please wear your mask? Sure. So then he's like, I look like the asshole. And so it's just I think there's still this touch and go of because it's also what people with little kids do. Yep. That becomes a big thing of my friends who have an 8-week baby, who obviously is susceptible to anything because it has no immune system, but little kids And even as I think today, Moderna said that it's safe for 12 to 17-year-olds. So
I believe so, yeah.
will probably get extended soon. But like the under 12...
I have a under 12 child myself.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of like, what do we do?
Does he wear a mask?
They're obviously she wearing a mask at school and everything. And yeah, anytime I'm kind of palling around with her, it's just like, I'll wear a mask. That's fine.
Yeah.
I hear, and actually they mentioned at that meeting today, I think it will be, or it's planned to be approved for kids 2 and up around September, which I think was kind of kicking around, was kind of being talked about, I would imagine, just in time for school, which would make sense. So stay tuned for that, I guess. That was just something I kind of overheard during this meeting today. So yeah, that is kind of my one hesitation.
Yeah.
Otherwise, so anytime I'm hanging out with my kid, I'll wear a mask, and she is too. And that's fine. We'll continue to do that. So yeah, just kind of a strange time right now.
Still strange. Still not completely out, but things are starting to feel... We're here.
We're here.
Or at least we're here.
This is proof that things can return to normal. And speaking of normal, let's finish things out with our recurring segment. Hugely popular. Everyone loves it. It's great to talk about this wonderful guy. He is our senior senator from Wisconsin. His name is Ron Johnson, and the segment is a little segment we like to call
Mandatory Johnson. Got it.
Ooh, that felt good.
That felt good. It's something about being in person.
Just nailed it. So, what has Senator Ron Johnson been up to? I believe you texted me earlier this week with a hot tip, a hot mandatory Johnson tip, where he was talking about unemployment benefits.
Yeah.
That's the thing he's kind of on
right
this
now.
week. There was I think Vice had an article where they were kind of talking about it. And he was talking to a TV station in Madison, I think, and I have just a few quotes from Senator Johnson. He said, "Unemployment benefits are not meant to provide replacement wages. We're back in a normal type of economic cycle now where unemployment benefits are supposed to be a bridge to a new job." This is the whole, $300 we're arguing about at this point. He says, "Wage rates are now being bid up because there is a labor shortage. And if you're a worker, that's a good thing. But here's the downside to that. Commodities go up and down, and you have the temporary increases in prices that come back down. Increases in wages, blah, blah, blah." He goes on and on and on. There's something, I was thinking about this, and actually, and this is just me maybe stretching, I kind of appreciate Ron Johnson talking about something as kind of classic as economics and the free market and that sort of thing, like those kind of conservative values, and not talking, at least today, about conspiracy theories or, I don't know, banning transgender kids from sports, which is something that
is also happening today.
Happening as we speak. So there's something...
Yeah, it's almost like they switched, because Gallagher this week is very on the COVID came out of a lab kick. And so it's almost like they kind of switched places this week as far as what are we talking about. Yeah, I mean, I think... this is where I need to spend some time wrapping my head around the numbers. Because in Wisconsin, unemployment rates are basically back to what they were before COVID.
Right.
So that means, is that based off of how many people are collecting unemployment? And that's what I don't know. So
right.
It's what is the number of people who are collecting unemployment compared to our unemployment rate that is already back to what it was prior? So I think people are not understanding that people just got different jobs. Or they're choosing not to go. I don't think it's people just biding their time and being I'm going to suck this for all that it's worth.
Right.
I don't know what the numbers, I don't know how you measure that and take a survey of people who are currently collecting unemployment. But if the unemployment rates right now are the same that they were before COVID, and if this wasn't an issue, needing more workers at this time, before, so February, whatever, early 2020. So I think people are just not understanding there's something else that has changed besides an extra $300. And whether that's people from the service industry went and got jobs at car dealerships, or people started doing things on Upwork and Fiverr and started finding other things to do over the course of the last year besides manual labor, in-person physical jobs, which I think are the industries that are having a hard time finding people.
Service industry and everything, right.
Construction, whatever. And so I think the understanding that, like, it's not, like, you can cut it, but, like, I don't think that's going to solve the problem.
Right.
Again, I don't have the numbers to back that up, but, like, I think that's more what it is. And it's a bunch of women who are not going back to work because childcare is super expensive.
Yes.
And it's cheaper to not work and stay home than to pay for childcare.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
I mean, you know, I don't even have a kid. You know.
Yeah, anyone who has a kid can attest that childcare is absurd. It is just out of control. So that's what Ron Johnson was talking about this week. I'm sure he was talking about 14 other things, but I wanted to highlight this because it felt good for just a real classic kind of, let's talk about the free market. So, yeah, I don't know. There you go. That was Mandatory Johnson. Well, that wraps things up for this week. Thanks for coming in, Kristin. This was really nice. Doing this in person. I'm looking forward to it. What do you have? Anything coming up?
Anything coming up? I mean, this weekend, I think just enjoying the weather. First Memorial Day weekend in Milwaukee. I feel like that's the thing that I'm excited about is, like, being still new to Milwaukee. Like, for the summer, I don't really want to go anywhere else. Like, I don't want to, like, go... like leave the state. I'm very excited to experience my first Milwaukee summer. But other than that, I just making more videos. I'm going to start a rebranding As Goes Wisconsin, so that'll come out in a month. So kind of working hard to give myself a facelift. But besides that, just making videos, making jokes.
There you go. That's all we're doing. That's what I'm trying to do, making articles, making occasional jokes too. That's all you can do these days. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you soon.